For the last several months, Gary Stearman has been doing some articles on time travelers of the Bible. Well, that's got my interest flowing, and I wanted to do a little time traveling myself. I wanted to go back to the 6 days of creation. In order to do that, of course, instead of having a time machine, I use a computer, an astronomy program. And so I went to my Macintosh, to the Starry Pro program, and I found some incredible things that I want to share with you today. Gary Stearman is here to discuss with me Creation Week.
The Creation Week. And JR, we're going to look at the Creation Week as measured by the movement of heavenly bodies, and we're going to use a computer program to do it. I want to read Genesis 1:14, which is the basis of our study. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years." Now, JR, these would be the sun, moon, the planets rotating, the stars. As these things move through the heavens, the Lord refers to them here in the very first chapter of the Bible as signs. Let's look at some of these signs.
And you know, he said the evening and the morning were the first day, the evening and the morning were the second day, and so on. So what we have here is 6 days of creation. These are 6 24-hour days. Regardless of what others might say about it, I think that we should go back in the computer astronomy program and look at the 6 days and see if we can find that, whether or not it fits the parameters of what is expected. First of all, theologians believed that the 6 days of creation started in 4004 BC, and it started with the new moon of September. Now, of course, there was no moon on the first day. The moon, the sun, the stars, they were all made on the 4th day. But if they were on the first day, then they should appear as I found them, by the way, in this computer program.
In other words, retrospectively, looking back to the first day of creation, the planets should have lined up in a particular way.
Yes.
And before we look at the computer, remember, Jewish history says that this day we're going to be looking at, the day of creation, is called the birthday of the world. It's the new moon of Tishri the 1st. It is Rosh Hashanah.
Yes. And
they've said for ever so long that this is when the world was born.
So I went back to the 1st of Tishri, September 25th, 4004 BC, and here's the evening sky, and you can see the moon right here. It's a crescent moon. It is the new moon, and right up here you can see it's September 25th, 4004 BC. Let's get a closer look at it here. There's September 25th over Jerusalem, Israel. You can see this is the crescent moon, the new moon of September. Now, the question is September the 25th on a Sunday? So I went to the calendar program that lays out all the phases of the moon, and sure enough, the new moon is on Sunday, September 25th, 4004 BC. Isn't that amazing?
And Sunday, of course, the first day of the week. And the creation week is laid out, day 1, day 2, day 3, and so forth. And therefore, it should stand to reason. Well, what kind of coincidence are we seeing here?
Yeah.
This is not a coincidence.
You know, he said, "Let there be light."
Yes.
And so that's the day that was named for the sun. Sunday, the day of light. And that means then that Adam was created on Friday. On September 30th, that's the last day of the month, and then of course the Lord rested on Saturday, the Sabbath. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing.
And it fits in 4004 BC. The calendar absolutely fits. Now, to me, this says that this is viable. This is not a coincidence. I went to 4005, 4003, looked around, you know, at the various years, could not find any other place where the new moon appeared on Sunday.
Wow.
The first day of the week. Well, that's not all. Let's go to Leo, because to me, something had to be happening with Leo on the first day of creation.
And by the way, before we do that now, just remember, those planetary motions, They move along a line, an imaginary line in the sky. Year in, year out, those planets are going round and round along this line. And along this line, there are figures. One of them is a lion, and he's called Leo. And the ancients understood that he had a particular meaning. Well, we know about the lion of the tribe of Judah, and that's where we're going to start our story.
In Genesis chapter 49, the dying Jacob gave a prophecy concerning Judah. He said in verse 9 of Genesis 49, Judah is a lion's whelp. But then in verse 10, Gary, he said, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh comes, the Messiah comes. Which means that we're not waiting for the Messiah to come for there to be a lawgiver between the feet of Leo. It's already there.
So let's get this all straight now. We have Jacob prophesying Judah as a crouching lion.
Yes.
Let's say he's supine, and lions have their feet out in front of them like this.
Yes.
And therefore there can be something between his feet. And it's called a scepter. And it's assumed already to be there in this prophecy. It says the scepter shall not depart, and it's also called a lawgiver.
Yeah. And by the way, the Hebrew term here is regalio. And you can break that Hebrew word down into regal and Leo.
Wow.
So here, and by the way, from Regulus, from the term Regulus, we get the word regulation, also the word regal. So we're looking at the king. So on the first day, September 25th, 4004 BC, I found Saturn in conjunction with Regulus between the feet of Leo.
In conjunction.
Yes.
Now, to explain, if you're not familiar with astronomy, you look up in the sky, and if you see two heavenly bodies approach each other so closely they're almost touching, that's called a conjunction. And it's rare when they come together like this.
Yes.
Occasionally you look up in the sky and you'll see this, but this is more than rare, the way this happens.
This is the first of a triple conjunction with Regulus between the feet. Now it's interesting that Saturn was the king of the universe at first. In fact, from the World Book Encyclopedia, reading up on profane history, this is astrology, the cosmologies of ancient civilizations, I read that Saturn was God of the harvest and ruled the world during its golden age. So he was the king.
Wow.
And here, celebrating the creation of Adam, we've got Saturn parked right on top of Regulus.
The scepter.
Yeah.
The scepter.
Absolutely. So we've got the first king here. And it's also interesting that he swallowed his first 5 children. Well, if you'll notice in this picture, we've got Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto also there. But those planets could not be seen and were not discovered except in the past couple of hundred years. In fact, Pluto was not discovered until 1935. But we've got those 3 planets and Saturn, that's the 4 outer planets, all together in Leo at the same time. And Saturn is in conjunction with Regulus. Now this is the first of a triple conjunction. So I'm going to go out of this program and I want to go down and get our Starry Night Pro program.
And by the way, folks, you're getting a chance to see JR operating the computer right on on this program.
Okay, Gary, I want you to notice now.
Okay.
Here we have Saturn so close that you can't even see the label for Regulus. I'm going to advance it one day at a time. Now you can see Regulus right here and Saturn together. And as we advance them through October, we will come to November 12th. Now you see it's going away, turning around and coming back for another conjunction right here on November 12th. And then we start it up again. As you can see, it goes back as we're into January and February and March and April, and we're coming down to its 3rd conjunction, and we are at June 5th, 4004 BC, for the 3rd conjunction of Saturn and Regulus.
June 5th, 4003 BC there.
Yes.
Okay.
So this tells us then that Saturn was a symbol of the ruler of this world. Adam was the first ruler of this world, and he is to be replaced by the Messiah. So when the dying Jacob here says that the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, Adam was the king of this world until Shiloh comes. Then Shiloh will become the king of this world. And that's what we're going to see in Jupiter. So we have here this incredible picture of Adam and the celebration of Adam. So here we have September, we have November, then we have the following June for this triple conjunction. And where is Jupiter? We'll tell you when we come back in just a moment. Now that we have seen Saturn in conjunction with Regulus in the feet of Leo, celebrating the creation of Adam, my next question was, where's Jupiter? If we have all 4 outer planets there, why not the 5th one? Where is Jupiter? And I found Jupiter coming out of Pisces. So here are the 2 fish with their tails tied together, and Jupiter. Notice, Gary, it's not going into Pisces, it's coming out of Pisces toward Aries, who is the male lamb type of the Messiah. So Jupiter here has a very important part to play in all of this.
Now, this is fascinating because the symbol Pisces is 2 fish with their tails tied together by a ribbon. Well, very strange symbol. Now, fish, of course, makes us think of the fishers of men, the idea of the gospel. And J.A. Seiss, in his Gospel in the Stars, had some interesting things to say about Pisces.
Absolutely. Here he says on page 83, it is a singular fact that the ancient rabbis always considered the people of Israel as denoted by this sign. So this is the sign of Jacob. And Jacob was the one who made the prophecy here in Genesis 49. So while the scepter shall not depart from Judah, the lion, we have Jupiter coming out of Jacob.
Wow.
And this is what Balaam prophesied, wasn't it?
Coming out of Jacob and later to become very important. And indeed, J.R., the prophecy of Balaam in the book of Numbers occurs during the days of Moses, when the king of Moab, Balak, tried to pay Balaam the prophet to prophesy against Israel. Balaam was unable to do so. God put different words in his mouth. In fact, Numbers 24:9, here's what Balaam said. He crouched. He lay down as a lion, as a great lion. Who shall stir him up? And then in verse 24, verse 17, Balaam says, I shall see him, that is a Messiah, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. And J.R., if this doesn't come right to the point, I don't know what does.
Yes, so Jupiter coming out of Pisces there is literally the fulfillment of what Balaam was talking about. While Saturn was in conjunction with Regulus in Leo on the first day of creation, Jupiter was coming out of Pisces. Now listen to what World Book Encyclopedia had to say about Jupiter in the ancient cosmologies of profane history. It says, after Jupiter grew up, he forced his father, Saturn, to cast up the other children and to give up his throne. Jupiter then became the king in place of Saturn. So we're going to have Jupiter taking Saturn's place. And that, of course, would take us over to the birth of Christ. First, we celebrate the creation of Adam, and then we come to the birth of Jesus, and to 4,000 years later. If Adam was created in September, on September 30th, for example, 4004 BC, we have the incarnation of Christ 4,000 years and 3 months later, at the end of December 4 BC, and 9 months later we have the birth of the Lord Jesus Christ in Bethlehem. And let's see what's happening then in September of 3 BC. It's on a Wednesday. We have the new moon of September. Now you must understand that in Revelation chapter 12, Virgo is seen, that is the virgin that gives the birth to the Messiah, is seen clothed in the sun with the moon under her feet. That is exactly what happens every year on Rosh Hashanah. Virgo, the constellation, is clothed in the sun, and the moon, the new moon, is under her feet. So we have the new moon here of September 11th, 3 BC. So let's find out what's happening in Leo.
All right.
Here's the constellation Leo, and look, we have Jupiter in conjunction with Regulus in Leo.
Now, JR, this is really interesting, and this is something to get excited about, because as you look, you'll note that here at the birth of Christ, you have a repetition of what happened on the birthday of the world, only this time the triple conjunction is accomplished not by Saturn, but by Jupiter. And by the way, JR, these triple conjunctions don't happen all the time. They are very rare.
Very rare. Now, what we had in 4004 BC was a triple conjunction between Saturn and Regulus. And what we have here on the night of the birth of Jesus is the first of a triple conjunction between Jupiter and Regulus.
Yes.
So this cannot be a coincidence, Gary.
Not at all.
This proves that Jesus is the Son of God.
And that star did come out of Jacob, and we see it.
So the Magi were sitting over there in Babylon, you know, looking at the stars, and they see this incredible constellation of Leo, and they see Jupiter. Now I'm going to start the movie going here with the Starry Night program, and I want you to watch Jupiter as we began. We see Jupiter turning around and coming back for its second conjunction in February.
Yes.
And then it stops, turns around, and comes back for its third conjunction, May 5th, 6th, somewhere in there. You can see the third conjunction between Jupiter and Regulus, just as the dying Jacob said.
Absolutely.
In Genesis 49.
And I want you to notice that the star Regulus, which is called the king star, and Jupiter, which is called the king of planets, come together between the feet of the crouching lion. And we have to say at this point, JR, that if you're going to draw a star figure, you can draw a lion a number of different ways. He can be standing up, he could be rampant, standing on his hind feet, but no, he's lying down. He's a crouching lion, exactly as prophesied both by Jacob and later by Balaam.
Yes.
And between his feet is Regulus, the king star, and the king planet Jupiter. It exactly matches biblical prophecy.
Not only is Regulus the regal star, but he's in the king of the jungle, the king constellation.
Yes.
And here is Jupiter, the royal planet, the king planet. In fact, when the devil came along and perverted God's original Bible and made astrology or idolatry of the Old Testament, he made Jupiter become the symbol of Satan. And so when Antiochus IV Epiphanes sacrificed a pig on the altar at Jerusalem, he also erected a statue to Jupiter.
He did.
Which was an abomination of desolation.
Wow.
And when Hadrian destroyed Jerusalem in 135 and sold the Jews on the slave markets of the world, he erected another statue of Jupiter on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. So this is what Jupiter has become. In fact, in the United Nations building today, just inside the lobby, we have a big statue of Jupiter standing there in all of his ingloriousness. But I want you to know that Jupiter originally pointed to the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, Jesus Christ.
And JR, the Magi knew about this when they came to see the Son of God there in Bethlehem. Matthew chapter 2, now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east, that's from Babylon, to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that's born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. JR, the Magi knew biblical prophecy.
Yes.
They knew Daniel's prophecy. In fact, there's good record that they knew all the prophecies of the Old Testament.
Even Balaam's prophecy.
Even Balaam's
So they were
prophecy.
looking for Jupiter
Absolutely.
to have this conjunction. And when it came the first time on September 11th, they probably took notice. But the second time on February 13th, the second of three conjunctions, they really got interested. But come May the 8th, when they saw the third conjunction between Jupiter, and then a little over a month later on June the 17th, when Jupiter and Venus came together as one light in the sky, they came hurrying to Jerusalem.
They did. They did indeed.
And asked for the king.
And JR, I have to go back to the beginning of it all, because when we go back to Jacob's prophecy, it says, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come. Remember the feet of the crouching lion whenever you read this prophecy. Yeah.
So Jesus is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He's the second Adam, and he really came and he died for you. So trust him as your Savior. He alone can give you eternal life. We'll be back in just a moment.